Abby stood on the high glass steps and watched the children below. Her skin was pale, almost silver in the light. Her eyes were wide and quiet, like old windows. She did not move with them. She did not shout or run. She watched. The playground was full of small noises. A ball hit wood. A dog-like pet barked. Children laughed and chased each other. Their voices mixed into a bright sound that felt far away to Abby. She pressed her hand to the cool glass. The world below looked close. It never let her in. When Abby was a little child, someone told her a rule. Do not join, they said. Do not trust a crowd. The rule was said softly and then always said again. Abby learned to sit and watch. She learned to fold her hands and keep her face still. She learned to hide her smile. On this day the air was thin and warm. The sky beyond the dome was a deep blue. People moved by with small chores and loud music from a market cart. Abby kept her place on the steps, a quiet shape watching bright life. A boy dropped his toy near the fence. He cried and ran to his father. The father laughed and picked the toy up. Abby wanted to reach down. She wanted to hand it back. Her fingers tightened on the glass and then let go. Distance lived between them like a wall. Then she heard a different laugh. It was not from the players. It was a clear, soft laugh that came from a man who smelled of oil and warm coffee. He carried a small crate of tools. He walked slow and let his eyes wander. Something in his face made the world tilt for a moment. The man looked up. He saw Abby. He did not look away. He smiled, a simple, small smile. It did not hide anything. It said, I see you. Abby had never felt such a small thing move her whole inside. Her throat felt tight. Her eyes watered a little, but she did not blink. She had never been smiled at like that. His name was Ethan Walker. He had hair that curled at the ear and laugh lines that made his eyes soft. He was not rich. He was not famous. He fixed broken toys and heaters and sometimes old radios. People trusted him because he was steady. Ethan stood under the steps for a long time. He did not walk away. He wiped his hands on his pants and looked up again. The children played on. Nobody else noticed Abby on the glass steps. They could not see what kept inside her. They could not see what she did every day. Watch, learn, remember. A patrol drone hummed in the distance. It moved like a small silver moth. The drone scanned the market and then the playground. Its light ran across faces and bags, and then it turned to the steps. Abby froze. The rule came back like a cold wind. Stay still, the rule said. Do not show yourself. Ethan saw the drone, too. He did not step back. He held the crate close, and he made no sudden move. The drone's light painted his face white and then left. He lifted a hand in a small wave. It was a tiny thing to do. It was large to Abby. She felt fear. People who saw aliens without the right papers were taken. They were asked questions. They were not always allowed to stay. Abby had heard the stories. Her heart beat fast. She thought of the rule and the soft voice that told her to hide. Her breath came quick. Ethan spoke without looking like he had to prove anything. His voice was low and kind. Hello up there, he said. I like watching the games. You must like them, too. Abby did not answer in words. She had learned human speech, but not fully. She had learned many small things by watching screens and listening. Her voice came out like a bird sound at first. She pointed to the bull and then to the boy who laughed. She tried one of the human sounds. Hi, she said. The sound was not perfect. It was enough. Ethan smiled wider. He set the crate down and sat on a low step. He moved slowly, so the drone would not think he was hiding something. He took out a small metal toy from the crate. It was old and slightly bent. He showed it to Abby. He did not throw it. He handed it to the edge of the step and pushed it so it would roll down where the children could see and pick it up. Then he kept his eyes on Abby. For a moment, Abby forgot the rule. She leaned forward and watched the toy roll. A child picked it up and waved. The child smiled at Ethan and then at Abby. For a small breath, the glass felt thin. Abby's lips moved and she made a sound that was close to a laugh. The drone moved away on a sweep across the market. It left a thin hum in the air. Abby let out a small breath she did not know she held. She touched the glass again, lighter this time, as if she could feel the warmth of the voices below. Ethan stood to leave. He picked up his crate and paused. He looked up at Abby and then down at the children. "I will come back," he said. He had no right to promise, but his voice was firm. He took a step up the small stair toward the platform where Abby stood. He did not know if rules would stop him or a guard would come. He only knew he wanted to see her smile again. The drone turned slow, and its single eye unfolded like a staring moon. Its light swung and found Ethan. The hum changed. People below turned their heads to the sound. In the instant before the drone blinked a red warning, Abby felt her world narrow to two small faces in one bright machine. Ethan's hand was on the stair. Abby watched him move. The glass under her feet felt colder. The drone's lens clicked once and then settled. Its light pointed straight at Ethan. The moment stretched thin and sharp, full of fear and the promise of something new. Abby did not move. Ethan didn't either. The whole playground seemed to hold its breath. Ethan felt the drone's light like a cold finger on his neck. He did not move his hand from the stair. He smiled the same small smile and then spoke in a voice that did not sound scared. "It's a fine day for games," he said, loud enough for the people near him to hear. The drone hummed and then turned away. Its lens swept the market again, then drifted back over the playground. For a long breath, the machine watched the laughing children and the men selling fruit. Finally it climbed and left, as if it had found nothing important. Abby could not believe it. Fear still held her body tight, but the cold in her chest thawed a little. Ethan sat down on the step again. He kept his voice steady and soft. "I am Ethan Walker," he said. "I fix things. What is your name?" Abby looked at his face. She had looked at many faces, but none felt like this. His eyes were kind and real. She had learned human names from old broadcasts. She tried. "Abby," she said. The sound came out quiet. It felt strange to speak her name aloud. Ethan nodded like he understood everything. He did not ask for papers or prove he belonged. He only looked at Abby and then at the playground. "Do you want to see the game?" he asked. She nodded. She wanted more than anything to be there with them. Ethan reached into his crate and took out a small toy, a metal soldier with a missing arm. He pushed it to the edge of the step and let it roll down. A child caught it and laughed. The child looked up, then waved at Ethan. When the child waved again, he did not look up to the steps. He just waved and said, "Thanks." The toy was lost to the crowd. Ethan's hand stayed on his crate. Abby watched the toy roll. Her hand pressed flat on the glass. The small sound she made was almost a laugh. Ethan saw it. He smiled wider, but not too wide. He spoke again. "Tomorrow," he said, "I will bring a better toy. Will you watch with me?" Abby felt warmth like sun on her face. She nodded so hard the glass shook. She wanted to say a dozen words. She only said one. "Yes." Ethan left after that. He walked slow through the market as if he belonged to it. Abby stayed until his back became a small dot. Then the rule came back, a thin, hard voice in her head. "Do not trust," it said. "Hide." She sat very still and listened. The next day Ethan returned with a small softball and a worn book of simple games. He found the same place under the steps and sat down. Abby climbed down a little from the high steps. She did not come all the way out. She hovered at the edge because she still feared watchers. Ethan took a careful breath and spoke like a teacher. He showed Abby how to hold the ball. "Hold it like this," he said. He moved his hand slowly so no drone would see sudden action. Abby copied. Her small hands closed around cold leather. She felt strange fingers hold the air. Ethan tossed the ball. It went in a small arc and hit the ground. A child kicked it back. The first try ended in a small mess of feet and laughter. Ethan laughed with them. Abby tried to throw the ball. The ball slipped from her hands and fell at her feet. Her face turned pale. She felt like a child who failed. Ethan smiled. "Again," he said. He did not laugh at her. He taught her again. This time Abby threw the ball and it went farther. It rolled and bumped a toy car. The children cheered. Abby felt a small burning joy inside her ribs. It made her hands tremble. She tried to speak, but a strange sound came out instead of a word. The children looked up, and someone clapped. 2 kids named Maya and Jonah came to the fence that day. They were small and brave in a way Abby did not expect. They had watched Ethan and the stranger on the steps. They did not care about rules the way adults did. Maya put a small hand against the glass and smiled. Jonah tossed another ball up, and it landed near Abby. The children waved and called, "Come play." For the first time in her life, Abby felt the idea of joining a game. She imagined running on soft grass, touching hands, and laughing loud. Her heart beat fast. She stepped forward. Her foot touched the lower edge of the platform. The children cheered like tiny bells. Ethan's face shone like someone who had kept a secret for a long time and finally told it. He moved close and helped Abby down the final step. The world smelled different to Abby now, warm bread and grass and the bright soap of children laughing. They played small games. Ethan taught Abby how to kick the ball with her foot. Maya showed her how to spin until she felt dizzy and then hold onto the fence and laugh. Jonah taught her a clap that matched the beat of the music from a passing cart. Abby learned so fast that everyone smiled. But the colony was not only peace and games. Men in gray vests watched the market from a distance. They spoke low and looked at lists on small screens. One of them, a man with a flat jaw and a voice like gravel, leaned to his partner. "High Command wants unregistered life forms found," he said. "They send a list to every patrol." Ethan felt a small chill when he heard that. He kept his voice bright and moved to stand between Abby and the officers. He pretended to fix a toy on the step, as if nothing worried him. Abby did not know what the words meant. She felt a change in the air, like a cloud over sun. Later that day, while the children played and the adults argued softly, a loud voice echoed over the market. The public announcement system crackled, and then read names. It spoke in a flat, steady tone. "Missing permits report. All citizens must check their paperwork." It listed small numbers and codes. Then it read a name that made Ethan's hands go cold. Abby was looking up at the screen. She watched the letters roll by. She did not understand the codes, but she felt the sound like a hand closing around her chest. Ethan's face turned pale. He did not move. Around them, people looked up. Some checked their pockets. A few laughed nervously. The list kept going. The voice said another number and another code. It sounded like a K-ful machine. Abby leaned close to Ethan. She did not know what would come next. Ethan's lips moved once and then stilled. The sound of the announcement filled the space like rain. In the moment before the next line read, Abby felt small and held. The children still played, unaware. The adults shifted like a small sea. Ethan's eyes met Abby's. He did not look afraid, but his hand tightened on the ball. The air seemed full of waiting. Then the announcement read a code that belonged to Ethan's name. It said his name and then a word that made his face drop. The market went suddenly quiet. Ethan felt his name hang in the air like a stone. The crowd went quiet. People looked at him the way they look at a small fire, careful and a little afraid. Ethan did not speak. He picked up the bowl and held it against his chest. His hand shook a little. Abby stood very close. She could not read the screen. She only saw the change in Ethan's face. The children still played for a moment, but their laughter slowed. Maya and Jonah looked from the fence up to the steps. Ethan looked at them and then down at Abby. "We must leave," he told her, quiet and fast. He spoke like a man who had decided before he heard the whole rule. Abby did not ask why. She only felt the shape of fear between them. She followed Ethan as he moved. They moved through a small alley behind the market. Boxes of fruit smelled sharp and sweet. The sun was low. People turned home. Ethan kept his head down. Abby kept hers lower. Her feet made no sound on the metal walk. Ethan led Abby to a small garage he rented. It smelled of oil and old cloth. The light was dim and soft. He closed the door and put a chair against it. He moved with careful hands. He did not want the noise of the city to hear him breathe. "I will hide you here," Ethan said. "I will not let them take you." His voice was steady but soft. He did not promise forever. He promised now. Abby looked at him and felt a small thing bloom that might be hope. Ethan had tools and parts. He fixed broken things here. He also had blankets and old boxes. He cleaned a small space and set a low lamp so Abby would not be afraid of the dark. Abby sat on an old crate and pulled her knees close. The lamp made her skin look warm instead of cold. Ethan taught her small things. He showed her how to shake a human hand. He taught her to say please and thank you in a slow, calm voice. He taught her how to breathe when she felt a panic in her chest. He did not teach rules. He taught small courage. Abby learned fast. She laughed when she learned a joke about a cat and a radio. She learned to wink like Ethan did and felt happy that he laughed back. The garage felt safe for a few hours. Outside, the city moved in a different way. Phones rang. People whispered. Patrols walked in lines like tired birds. Maya and Jonah did not stop coming. They snuck by at twilight with small gifts. Maya brought a bag of sweet fruit. Jonah brought a small string of colored lights. The kids sat on the garage floor and showed Abby how to clap a game and how to sing a silly line that made Jonah fall over laughing. The four of them made a small, bright world. Abby learned to kick a small tin can and to fall and get up. She learned to wear a scarf like Maya showed her. The kids did not care that Abby was not like them. They only liked that she could run and hop and laugh in a new way. But the city did not sleep. Patrols grew closer. A gray car drove slowly past the market. Men with clipped hair watched the people and wrote on small tablets. Ethan watched them from the garage door and his jaw set. He could not let them see Abby. One afternoon, a patrol walked by the garage. It stopped. An officer looked at the door. Ethan felt the blood move cold in his head. He pulled a small tool from his crate and pretended to fix the lamp near the door. He worked slow and careful. The officer listened and then walked on. Ethan let out a long breath he had not known he held. The next week, the orders came in louder. Posters were put on walls. Report unregistered life forms, they said in thin letters. People read them and looked away. Some nodded. Some crossed the street. Ethan and the children made a plan. They would not hide forever. They would try small things to keep Abby safe and to teach her how to be seen in a gentle way. They needed to move from the garage sometimes. The kids wanted Abby to see the small secret park behind the old library. It was a place with broken swings and soft grass. It was quiet, and the trees hid you like a big, careful hand. On one bright day, the patrol came closer than before. 2 officers stopped near the market and watched the steps. They asked questions of people who looked nervous. Ethan knew they would come to the garage if they found a lead. He decided to make a little distraction. Ethan took an old radio from his crate. He fixed it so that it would make a strange sound when the sun hit the metal a certain way. He told Jonah and Maya the plan: make the radio loud near the market stall and then run to the other side. Ethan would pretend the radio was his and that it had a short circuit. People would gather and the patrol would go to see. The plan worked like a small trick. The radio gave a loud crack and a puff of light. People turned and a small crowd formed. The patrol walked toward the sound. Ethan and the children moved Abby to a safe alley and then to the hidden park. They kept their heads down. The world smelled of cut grass and old wood. They reached the park just as the sky turned pink. Abby looked at the swings and the tree roots. Her hands touched the grass. For a moment she was only a child under the sky. Ethan smiled and sat on a bench. The kids ran and swung and laughed like bells. The townspeople heard about the radio and the crowd. Some people came later and asked questions. A few neighbors brought small foods and sat and spoke in low voices. They did not hide their faces. They spoke about rules and fear and how the city should be kind. Some said they were worried and that rules must be followed. Others said they had seen Abby help when a sick machine at the market started, and she pointed out a leak no one else saw. They remembered small kindness. The town grew quiet and heavy with thought. That night the park was dark. The children wanted to leave, but Abby would not go. She sat under an old tree and looked up. The stars showed through the leaves like small holes. Jonah leaned his head on her shoulder and made a small, brave joke. Maya tied the string of lights around a branch, and it flickered. From the far side of the park, a dark shape moved. Someone stood behind a low wall and watched the group. He wore a long coat and a hat that hid his eyes. He held a small tablet, and his face looked hard and thin. Ethan saw him last, when the lights bent and his shadow fell long. The watcher did not move. He looked at Abby. His mouth did not smile. He wrote something on his tablet, and then tapped a small red button. The sound was soft. Abby felt the small cold again, like a hand closing around her breath. Ethan's hand found the tool at his belt. He stood slowly. Maya and Jonah stood, too. The night was full of waiting. The watcher behind the wall did not look kind. The watcher behind the wall moved like a dark thought. He stepped into the light. He wore a badge on his chest. The badge said, Captain Hale. His face was flat and his voice was flat, too. He walked to the bench where Ethan sat today. He did not look at the children. He looked only at Abby. We have reports, Captain Hale said. Someone saw a strange life form near the market. We follow the law. His voice had no softness. People in the park turned their heads. The air grew thin like glass. Ethan stood slow. He kept his hands empty and his face calm. She has done nothing wrong, he said. She plays. She helps. Look, he let his voice show the small things Abby had done. He told how she had pointed out a leaking pipe at the market. He told how she had stayed quiet and kind. His voice had small heat in it. Hale did not smile. He tapped his tablet and read from a list. The law is clear, he said. Unregistered life forms must be quarantined. They cause risk. He did not shout. He sounded like the rule itself. The park grew very quiet. Jonah and Maya held each other's hands. Some neighbors in the dark made soft sounds. A woman near the swing stood up and walked close. She folded her arms and looked at Hale. We saw her help with the leak, she said. She warned us. She did a good thing. Her voice shook. A few others nodded. Hale's jaw did not change. Good deeds do not change a risk, he said. He looked at Ethan. You will bring her in. Ethan felt the air move like a small storm. He looked at Abby. Her hands had found each other. She was small under the bright lights. She did not say much. She only watched the faces around her and tried to understand the shape of fear and the shape of hope. A town meeting was cold that night. People filled a room above the market. Lanterns hung from the ceiling. The room smelled of coffee and metal. Chairs creaked. Hale sat at the front and read the order again. Some people whispered that rules were rules. Others said the rules were old and made for fear. Ethan stood in front of them. He spoke plain and slow. We are a small place, he said. We have been small because we help each other. I knew Abby when she was only a watcher on the steps. I have seen her hands close a leak. I have seen her laugh with the children. I know she has no plan to harm us. A man at the back raised his hand. He was older and his voice was soft. We do not know what she brings, he said. We have heard stories. We must be safe. Another woman stood. She was younger and she had 2 small marks on her hands from fixing a machine. When the water pump failed last month, I thought we would lose a market, she said. Abby stood by the pump and she pointed to the rusted valve. We closed it. The pump did not blow. We saved the food. That is real. The room split like a wood fire. Some voices called for the law. Some voices called for kindness. The talk went late. People spoke of fear and of memory. They spoke of being watched once and then saved by neighbors. They did not know what choice to make. Outside, the sky hummed. The supply ship that came once a week slowed above the dome. Its ducking lights blinked, then stuttered. A cold wind came from the vents. An alarm sounded at the market tower. A thin cry ran through the town. Ethan and a small group ran to the control room. The hatch was hot to the touch. Steam leaked from a side pipe. A warning light flashed red. The supply line to the market had a crack. If it broke more, the market would flood. Food would be lost. The pumps were old and the crew were tired. Abby stood at the back of the small group. She listened with a face like a question. She walked to the pipe and put her hand close to the metal. She did not touch hard. She only tilted her head. Her skin made a slight sound like a bell. Ethan saw it. What do you feel? He asked. Abby pointed to a small seam where the metal met a rubber gasket. Her fingers made a small motion, like turning a key. Her eyes shone bright. There, she said, in slow, soft words. Close, hey. Ethan moved and did as she showed. He tightened the bolt. Jonah handed him a clamp. Maya turned the wheel. The steam slowed and then stopped. The red light fell to orange and then to green. The market's pumps hummed back to life. People in the room watched, and then they breathed like they had been under water. The older man who had spoken earlier crossed his arms and looked at Abby with new eyes. She saved us, he said. The word sounded like a new small truth. Word moved through the town like quickfire. Neighbors came to the market and they spoke softly. They remembered the night the pump failed and the food was safe. They remembered the small hands that had pointed and had been right. Some faces turned hard and secret. Others changed like sky at dawn. But the law moved, too. Captain Hale tapped his tablet and his face went dark. He left the market fast and walked to the main tower. He spoke into a small device and his voice went out over the night. The public system crackled, and then a voice read an order that made the market still. "Order from High Command," the voice said. "Quarantine required for unregistered life forms. Effective dawn." The speaker's tone was official and final. The room felt smaller. Ethan's heart hit his ribs like a fist. People looked at each other. Some faces were pale. Some were set with hard lines. Abby listened, and she felt the cold again. She did not know what quarantine meant for her. She only knew the new sound, closing doors. Ethan stepped forward. He made his voice steady. "We must choose," he said. "Do we follow a rule that will take one of us away? Or do we stand?" His words were simple and true. Many people looked down. The space filled with quiet like a bowl. The children pressed together. Maya's eyes were bright and brave. Jonah's hands trembled a little. The older man who had saved food looked at Abby and then at the people. He stood. Outside, the dawn would come soon. The order said the quarantine must start then. The town's choice would be made in the long, small hours before sun. Ethan's hand found Abby's. He did not let go. The room felt full of fear and a small flame. Dawn came slow and thin. The town moved like quiet water. People wrapped coats and held small bags. Ethan kept his hand tight on Abby's. He did not let her go. Captain Hale walked into the square with 2 guards. His face was hard and flat. He carried a small case and a tablet that glowed. Behind him, the town light still smelled of coffee and smoke from early ovens. The market was emptying. The children stayed home, but Maya and Jonah stood at the edge of the crowd. They held each other's hands and would not leave. Hale read the order in a loud voice. "By High Command, unregistered life forms must be taken for quarantine. This is for public safety." His words were crisp. The guard set down a barrier to mark a safe space. Ethan stepped forward. He kept his voice calm. "She will come with us if we must," he said. "But she is one of us now." Hale looked at him like he had said something strange. "You surrender the subject," Hale said. "You must not interfere." A woman from the back moved to the front. She was the older mechanic who had trusted Abby before. Her palms were rough, and she looked steady. "We do not hand her over," she said. "She helped us. She is one of us." Other voices rose. A shopkeeper who had once grumbled spoke. "She saved my stock when the pump failed." A baker said, "My boy calls her friend." The crowd grew louder, but quiet enough to be measured, not angry and wild, strong and steady. Hale's jaw tightened. He tapped his tablet and called for the transport. The guards moved closer. The case on Hale's belt clicked open. He showed a small device that would lock a person's wrist if they tried to run. The sight of it made a few people step back. Ethan did something the crowd did not expect. He took a step forward and put his hands up. His face was calm. "Take me instead," he said. "I am a citizen. I will go to quarantine if that keeps her safe." The words hung in the air like a quiet bell. People stared at Ethan. Abby's eyes filled with a bright, sudden worry. Ethan looked at her and smiled with a small sort of brave. "I fix things," he said. "I can be useful there." For a moment, no one answered. The town felt the weight of the choice. Then one by one, people moved. Maya and Jonah stepped forward. The older mechanic put her hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You are not alone," she said. Hale's face did not change much, but his voice lost a little of its sharpness. He spoke into his tablet. "Subject transferred. One citizen offered. High Command must be notified." He waited for a reply. A thin static crackled from his device. The voice from High Command was flat and distant. "Acknowledged," it said. "Proceed with quarantine." As a guard stepped forward, something else happened. Abby had been very still, watching the faces. Her small hands rose like a bird finding balance. She moved toward the market pumps where the supply line had once cracked. People watched and held their breath. Abby did not touch anyone. She stood before the old pump and placed her palms near the metal. Her skin did something small and strange. It made a faint sound like chimes. The guards paused. Ethan called her name softly. Abby closed her eyes and breathed slow. Then she did a small thing with her fingers, a movement that looked like threading a needle. The pump gave a whispering sound and then stopped leaking. The small device Hale had clicked softly and then went mute in his hand. The guards looked at their cuffs. The cuff showed a red light, and then they turned green, like a lock that decided to open. No one knew exactly why. Some people said later the device had a fault. Others said the pump sensed calm and the machine obeyed. The market lights blinked on as if the town had taken a long breath. Hale's tablet lost a connection for a few seconds. The voice from high command sputtered and then grew faint. In that short quiet, someone in the crowd had raised a small camera, and it was live. Faces and voices crossed out to other towns. The image showed Ethan standing with hands open and Abby by the pump. The word spread. They stand with her. Back at the tower, the distant voice said, "Delay quarantine. Review situation." The line went dead for a moment. Hale looked down at his tablet and then at the people. He had the lure. He also had the sight of neighbors holding each other and the image of a child who had helped them. Hale closed the case softly. He did not smile. He tapped a button, and the guard stepped back. "High command orders delay," he said. His voice had the same flatness, but no iron in it now. The town did not celebrate loud. They did not need to. People came close and spoke in small tones. Some hugged. Ethan let go of Abby's hand for the first time that morning and reached out to touch her shoulder. "You did good," he said. Abby looked down and let a slow smile come. Days passed after the delay. People met and spoke to the officials. Some said they wanted rules changed. Some said safety was important. A small council opened to hear what had happened. Ethan stood with the children and the mechanic, and they told the simple truth. Abby had saved the pump. She had sat with children. She had been kind. News moved slowly from town to town. Other places listened, and some wrote letters. High command sent a quiet team to learn, not to take. They wanted to know how the town had held together and what an unregistered life form could mean. In the market, a new sign went up one morning. It was small and hand-painted. It read, "All our neighbors here." People smiled when they saw it. Maya and Jonah played near the swings. Abby walked to the steps and then down to the playground for the first time without fear. She stood in the middle of the grass and looked at the children. Her smile was wide and simple like a bright coin. Ethan sat on a bench not far away, his hands rough from tools and hope. The older mechanic brought a warm pie and set it on the table for everyone. Captain Hale watched from a distance. He did not smile. He did not look angry either. He sat and looked at the children playing and then at Abby. He tapped his tablet and wrote a short note. Later, people found out he had signed a paper that asked for a slow change. Rules needed to learn too. Abby turned and walked toward Ethan. He stood and met her in the middle of the playground. She reached out and took his hand. The town felt a little lighter, as if someone had opened a window in the air. Abby looked at the bright faces around her. She closed her eyes and then laughed. The sound was small and clear, and it was her own. The children ran to include her. The wind moved a string of lights. The market smelled like bread. Ethan watched her and then looked at the sky. He felt proud and tired and very sure of one thing. People could change. The town had chosen. They had kept a life safe. And a lonely alien girl had found a place where she could smile.